Breaking news out of Salt Lake City tonight, police have been dispatched to 164 East Hill Avenue. Reports coming in show that an unknown caller reported an alleged break-in and homicide at approximately 8:47 p.m. Thursday evening.
It began like any other quiet evening in Salt Lake City. The hum of distant traffic, the glow of streetlights flickering over polished chrome. But at exactly 8:47 p.m., that calm was shattered. A 911 call came through dispatch from an address every car lover in America knew: Kindig-It Design. The voice on the other end was shaky, tense. "Yeah, it's Kindig-It. We've got someone in the shop, I don't know who." Within minutes, squad cars rolled through the industrial park, sirens echoing down the empty streets. Neighbors peeked from windows as flashing red and blue lights danced across the famous garage's metallic facade. To most, Kindig-It was a temple of creativity, where Dave Kindig and his crew turned forgotten relics into million-dollar masterpieces. But that night, something inside had gone terribly wrong. Officers expected a break-in, maybe a burglary attempt. Instead, they stepped into a scene that felt staged. Too quiet. Too still. The massive bay doors stood half open, the air thick with the faint smell of burnt rubber and welding smoke. A single light flickered over a half-covered car. Somewhere deeper inside, a door creaked. When police began to sweep the premises, one officer reportedly muttered, "Something's off. It's like they were in the middle of something," and walked away. Word spread quickly across the neighborhood. Police at Kindig-It? Was it a robbery, a break-in, or something worse? Within the hour, Dave Kindig himself arrived, visibly rattled, keys in hand, confusion written across his face. "I don't know who called," he told officers, "but something's wrong." The alarm shouldn't have gone off. As officers began their search, they realized this wasn't about stolen tools or vandalized cars. Wasn't even clear if anyone had broken in at all. What they would uncover, hidden behind a sealed door in the back of the building, would ignite rumors that would shake the custom car world and leave even Dave Kindig speechless. Because that night wasn't about a theft or an accident. It was about something or someone that had been hidden in plain sight all along. To understand the weight of that night, you first have to understand the man at the center of it all. Dave Kindig isn't just another car builder. He's an artist who turned steel into sculpture. From humble beginnings in his garage to international fame through Bitchin Rides, Dave built an empire rooted in precision, creativity, and an almost obsessive drive for perfection. Every curve, every weld, every stitch, nothing leaves his shop unless it's flawless. Kindig-It Design became a symbol of craftsmanship. Fans saw it as the gold standard, a spotless facility where imagination met horsepower. But what the cameras didn't always show were the pressures that came with that success. Deadlines, secrecy, the constant tension between artistic vision and corporate expectation. As Bitchin Rides grew, so did the rumors. Whispers of unfinished projects, tucked away behind locked doors, high-profile clients whose builds never made it to air, and a few employees who quietly vanished from the roster without explanation. For years, the speculation stayed harmless. The kind of shop gossip that floats around every successful business. But in the months leading up to the police call, that tension had started to surface. One insider described the mood as different. Late nights, lights burning long after the crew clocked out. Restricted areas marked authorized access only. When questioned about it, Dave would just smile and say, "We're working on something special." Kindig's pursuit of innovation had always bordered on obsession, but this time, it felt like he was keeping something even his closest team didn't fully understand. And when the alarm went off that night, it wasn't just a malfunction. It was the moment those whispers turned into something tangible. Whatever was hidden inside Kindig-It that evening wasn't part of any build the public had seen before. And soon, police would learn that the real story of that call wasn't about a break-in. It was about what someone wanted kept locked away. Dispatch records show the call came in at 8:47 p.m. A calm but nervous male voice identified the location. Kindig-It Design, 164 East Hill Avenue. Motion alarm triggered. There's movement in the restoration bay. Officers assumed it was a false alarm, the kind that happens when a cat wanders too close to a motion sensor. But the voice on the line wasn't security. It was a staff member. "I heard something, like tools hitting the floor," he said, breathing heavy. "It's coming from the back. The lights are off back there." Within minutes, 2 patrol units arrived. The front door was unlocked, the alarm still flashing red. Inside, the building felt unnervingly cold, the air carrying a metallic tang, like oil, dust, and ozone. The officers called out, announcing their presence. No answer. Then, a faint clatter echoed from deep inside the storage wing. What they expected to find was a burglar. What they actually found was a trail. Footprints in the dust leading toward a heavy, sealed partition wall that didn't appear on any floor plan. One officer later described it in his report. No sign of forced entry. Area looks abandoned, but it's not supposed to exist. When they radioed for the owner, Dave Kindig was already en route. He sounded calm, but confused. "There shouldn't be anyone there," he told them. "We don't use that section anymore." But the motion alarm had come from that exact space. As they waited for Kindig to arrive, the officers shined flashlights over the covered shapes of half-finished cars. Silent, skeletal forms draped in tarps. Then one beam caught a set of tire tracks leading under a door sealed shut with weld lines. "Looks like someone didn't want this opened," an officer said quietly. By the time Dave pulled up, police were ready to cut it open. And what they would find behind that wall wasn't theft, sabotage, or vandalism. It was something no one expected to exist at all. The sealed section was more than just an old storage bay. It was a vault. Welding seams sealed the entrance, as if it had been deliberately entombed. When the officers broke through, a rush of stale air hit them, heavy with dust, oil, and time. Inside was a collection frozen in silence, rows of classic vehicles shrouded under tarps, some recognizable, others unlike anything seen on Bitchin Rides. There were crates of parts, stacked blueprints, and a flickering fluorescent light buzzing over one car in particular. An unfinished masterpiece covered in gray sheets. When they pulled the tarp back, the officers saw a sleek, metallic silhouette. A car no one recognized, yet unmistakably Kindig in its design language. Polished by time, untouched by light. But this wasn't a restoration project. This was something else. None of this was on the books, one officer wrote in his report. No serial numbers, no production tags, no inventory entries. It shouldn't have been here. When Dave Kindig arrived, he reportedly froze. "That's impossible," he murmured. "That car's not supposed to be here." The officers pressed him. "What was this place? Why was it sealed?" Dave hesitated. "We used to call it the archive," he finally said. "Old concepts, unfinished builds, stuff that never made it to the show. But this particular car, sleek, black, ominous, didn't look old. Its surface gleamed, flawless, and recent." And then, one officer noticed something else. A trunk welded shut, seams clean but deliberate. That's when everything shifted. Because the mystery wasn't just what this car was. It was what was hidden inside it. As the dust settled, one detail drew every eye in the room. The Lincoln. A 1958 Continental. Jet black and unnervingly pristine. Its panels gleamed under the single overhead bulb. But what caught the officer's attention was the trunk. Unlike the rest of the body, it had been welded shut. Seams smooth, deliberate, not the work of an amateur. It looked intentional, as if someone wanted to ensure it would never open again. Dave stood there in disbelief. "That car was finished years ago," he said quietly. "It was supposed to be in storage off-site." But when officers asked who last accessed the vehicle, his expression shifted. The question caught him off guard. The lead investigator authorized a partial cut. Sparks filled the air as the lock gave way, the metallic groan echoing through the silent garage. Inside, there was no body, no contraband. Only sealed boxes wrapped in brown paper and twine, labeled confidential, property of Kid Engineering. Inside those boxes were blueprints, NDAS, and unsigned contracts. Each folder referenced something called Project Phoenix. Police laid the papers out across the hood, scanning through the notes. The language was technical. Design specs, powertrain innovations, prototype sketches. But one phrase stood out, handwritten across the top of a page in red ink. Client suspension. Retain materials until further notice. According to later reports, the project had been commissioned by a high-profile collector under strict confidentiality. But midway through, the funding disappeared, and the client stopped returning calls. Discovery Channel was said to have pulled the footage from the show after legal review. Now, years later, the car had reappeared, buried behind walls, its secret sealed in steel. It wasn't a crime scene, it was a cover-up. And when the officers turned to Dave, he simply said, "We weren't hiding anything illegal, just something the world wasn't ready to see." But he was wrong. The discovery was only just beginning, because those papers in the trunk hinted at more than a lost project. They hinted at who might have hidden it there. And why. The documents pulled from the Lincoln told a story the public was never meant to hear. Project Phoenix had once been Kindig-It Design's most ambitious build. A high-concept restoration, commissioned by a mysterious client, known only as A. Marlowe. The car was rumored to combine 1960s styling with modern electric tech, a hybrid design ahead of its time. According to internal memos, filming had already begun for Bitchin Rides Season 4 when Discovery abruptly halted production on the project. Client withdrawn. The notice read, but the truth was murkier. Crew members recalled the client visiting the shop twice, the second time in anger, demanding access to the unfinished build. Shortly after, all footage of the car vanished from production archives. Months later, Kindig quietly bought the chassis back, citing unfinished contractual obligations. But the car never appeared again. Fans speculated endlessly online, calling it the Ghost Build, a project so secret it had to be buried. Now, with police standing over the physical evidence, one question loomed. Who welded it shut? And why had it been hidden behind a sealed wall? When pressed, Dave admitted only this. It was supposed to be gone. Someone didn't want it gone. The police traced the shop's security records and found no entries linked to that section of the building in over 3 years. Yet the dust on the car was thin, meaning it had been moved or cleaned recently. Something, or someone, had accessed the archive long after it was supposedly closed. Whether it was a rogue employee, a corporate rival, or the mysterious client himself, no one could say. But what the police found next inside the hidden bay suggested the secret went far beyond a missing build. Because on the back wall, under a canvas tarp, was something no one, not even Dave, claimed to recognize. The officers uncovered a makeshift workbench, cluttered with old design sheets, prototype components, and empty coffee cups. Whoever had been there hadn't just broken in, they'd been working. Among the clutter was an envelope marked Private, DK only. Inside was a single note, written in clean block letters. You built perfection. Then you buried it. For investigators, that line raised questions that no one could quite answer. For Dave, it hit deeper. Like a message from someone who knew him intimately. He later admitted that only a handful of people had access to that part of the shop. Senior engineers, former lead designers, and one close collaborator who'd left the company years earlier after a dispute over intellectual property rights. The police report listed the findings as unregistered materials and unauthorized storage. No arrests were made, but the tension inside Kindig-It grew thick. Crew members whispered about off-record projects and private commissions. A former fabricator even told reporters there were builds nobody talked about. Experimental stuff, big money clients. We didn't ask questions. Dave released a statement days later, calm and deliberate. There's nothing illegal about innovation, but there's something dangerous about keeping it quiet. He promised full cooperation with authorities, and true to form, he delivered every document they requested. Still, something about the case felt unresolved. Because while police were photographing the Lincoln and cataloging the paperwork, one officer noticed something mounted on the wall beside the car. A massive hand-drawn blueprint framed in glass. When the officer lifted the tarp away, Dave froze. "This isn't supposed to be here," he whispered. The blueprint was labeled Series 1, Electric Prototype. And for the first time that night, the look on Dave Kindig's face wasn't confusion. It was fear. As officers cleared the area, their flashlights swept across something enormous. A hand-drawn concept sketch covering nearly the entire wall. Pencil lines, ink notes, precise measurements. It wasn't a random doodle. It was a full technical rendering of a car that didn't exist anywhere else. The bottom corner bore a small inscription in Dave's own handwriting. Series 1, Electric Prototype. The room went quiet. Even the officers could sense they were looking at something revolutionary. A Kindig design unlike any seen before. Gone were the chrome curves of his signature hot rods. This was futuristic. Sculpted panels, hidden lighting, a whisper of speed instead of a roar. Underneath the design were notations about modular battery packs, adaptive chassis control, and one chilling line scrawled in red. Do not release until market ready. When asked about it, Dave hesitated. "That's something we were exploring," he said finally. "An idea, a future project." But his voice cracked when a detective pointed out the date on the corner of the blueprint. 3 years old. If this was real, it meant Kindig-It had quietly been developing an electric super custom, long before anyone in the industry suspected it. It was a direct challenge to the old-school culture Dave himself helped define. No roaring engines, no gas, just silence and torque. For years, whispers in the custom car world suggested Kindig was planning a pivot, a secret leap toward the electric revolution. Now, standing before that hidden wall, it wasn't rumor anymore. It was proof. One officer reportedly asked if the car existed. Dave's answer was simple. Not yet. But the expression on his face said otherwise. Because some secrets, once uncovered, can't be put back behind walls. And this one, the birth of a new era, had been hiding in plain sight. By morning, word had spread that police had visited Kindig-It Design. A passerby's phone footage of flashing lights hit social media before dawn, and within hours the internet was in meltdown. Fans speculated wildly. Stolen cars, illegal parts, even government prototypes. The hashtag #KindigGarageMystery trended worldwide. Dave Kindig responded the next day with a calm, polished statement. "We build art, not chaos. The truth is always less dramatic than rumors, but I'll let the cars speak for themselves." He thanked local police for their professionalism, dismissed talk of criminal activity, and refused to elaborate on what the sealed area actually contained. Discovery Channel, meanwhile, stayed silent. No comment, no acknowledgement. But quietly, Bitchin Rides was renewed for another season. Industry insiders took that as a sign that whatever happened inside the shop hadn't rattled their confidence, or perhaps that it had reignited interest in the franchise. Behind the scenes, things shifted. The car known as Project Phoenix disappeared from all internal archives. Employees were asked to sign new confidentiality agreements. A few noticed design elements from that missing build re-emerging in later episodes. Subtle hints that its DNA had lived on. For law enforcement, the case closed quickly. No charges, no citations, just a final line on the report. Security breach. Property secured. But the public's fascination didn't fade. If anything, the silence made it louder. Because in the world of custom cars, mystery sells faster than horsepower. And now, every time the garage lights flicked on at night, fans wondered what else might still be waiting behind those welded walls. Weeks later, long after the headlines died down, Dave was seen back at his drafting table. Alone, pencil in hand, eyes fixed on a fresh sheet of vellum. No cameras, no crew, just the sound of graphite against paper. What the police found that night wasn't evidence of a crime. It was evidence of obsession, the kind of relentless pursuit that turns an artist into a legend. Hidden behind steel and secrecy wasn't scandal. It was innovation. Dave Kindig wasn't hiding mistakes. He was hiding the future. In an interview months later, he finally addressed the incident in a single sentence. "People think I'm hiding something. I'm not. I'm just not done building yet." Those words summed up the man perfectly. Never finished, never satisfied, always chasing the next evolution of design. Project Phoenix remained unspoken of, its files locked away, its client unnamed. But fragments of it began appearing in Kindig's later work. Sleeker lines, quieter engines, cleaner power. The whispers about an electric era didn't die, they multiplied. In the end, what police truly uncovered in that garage wasn't a secret car or a scandal. It was a moment of revelation. Proof that even in the world of roaring V8s, change was coming. The mystery may remain unsolved, but one thing is certain. Whatever Dave Kindig is building next isn't just another custom ride. It's a revolution waiting for ignition. And somewhere behind the locked doors of Kindig-It Design, the future of hot rodding is already humming quietly, waiting to come alive.